Welcome back to the Holistic Business and Life Mastery Show. I'm your host, Supriya Roy. Hey, happy Chinese Lunar New Year. If you're a follower of ours, welcome back. And if you're just joining new, welcome to you as well. In today's episode, we're speaking with a previous client of mine, and we're going to unpack six-figure business problems. Now, most of you know over here, we help you get to six figures. In our one-on-one containers, we also help CEOs that are already at that six-figure mark. So Avi has lots of experience, has run multiple businesses, and he's got quite a bit of experience in every other thing that you can think of when it comes to his trade. And you'll get to hear from him what sort of problems, challenges, and also highlights that you can expect on that six-figure journey, especially if you're in the service-based business area. So let's get started, and I would love to hear what you thought of what we talked about today in a comment or a review or a DM. Reach out to us as things come up for you so that you're not only just listening, but you're also engaging and contemplating what are some of the ways you can also unlock your business potential. Okay, enjoy. Hello, Avi. How are you this morning?
I am amazing as always. And how are you doing?
Yeah, great. And welcome to our show. This is your first ever podcast with us. So welcome to the Holistic Business and Life Mastery Show as a speaker. How does that feel?
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. This is something that's really important for us, right? This topic of the six-figure business owner journey and, the problems we face. But the idea here today is to demonstrate how your journey has been a long journey, right? How long have you been a business owner now?
So 2025 is actually my 31st year in business.
Whoa, right? So that's a long time. So if it's the 31st year of business, how many businesses have you run then?
So I've with anything, especially in business, it's a case of trying to do as much as you can, as quick as you can, to learn a lot of experience. So I think I've tried my hand at a lot of things. I started off at 14 manufacturing healthy sweets for the health food industry. And then that was a really long business. I ran that for about 2 decades. So that became kind of like the backbone. In that time, I've also done franchising where I've owned Plus Fitness gyms, Char Time franchises. And in between there, did a consultancy company and a whole bunch of other little things. And when you try your hand at many things, you learn a lot of things. So, but they're kind of like the highlights.
Beautiful. Yes. And I remember you telling me about your first business, where you were sort of the pioneer in your area. It was a local business and then it turned into something bigger, right? The food and bev.
Yeah. So the concept has definitely grown. When you're young, you don't understand things like patents and copyrights and protecting your intellectual property, which is so important. So it's obviously a lesson learnt. So I used to manufacture what is now known as bliss balls and bounce balls. So it was one of the first, if not the first, in the industry, kicking around the northern beaches, eastern suburbs of Sydney. Managed to score a contract with Woolworths to supply them. But of course, it outgrew me. And when you don't understand the elements of scaling, you just let things kind of grow out of control and then it capitulates. But it was a great adventure. And it showed that persistence and hard work really pays off.
Wow. Yeah, thanks so much. I really admire that your journey really demonstrates that, business is almost like a personal development journey, or is, right? It's like you're constantly growing and it's not the be all and end all. It's a vehicle through which we grow ourselves as well. Yeah. And you certainly have. Knowing you for the past few years that I feel like I've gotten to know that there is actually a future that just gets better. I've noticed that you just got better and better in your journey. So we would love to unpack that for the listeners today and the audience today, if you're okay with that. Yeah. So firstly, you might, with what we do here, right, as you already know, but just for our new listeners, we can give you the roadmap from startup to growth to scale. And it's, in partnership with the person's vision, right? And not everybody wants a 7-figure business. Not everybody wants a 6-figure business because they've got other sources of income. Though, when it comes to startups, let's start there. As a solopreneur, starting off their journey into, starting that seed, growing it, into something that's viable, something that gives you hope. What are some of the things you remember as that person? Let's talk about the second or third business, the one that we were transitioning you out of, the one that you're in, the franchise business. Remember the startup point where you had some lessons now, you had your experience with business ownership. What was that like? Like, what's the startup phase like for you at that time as a person?
Yeah, so startup, we can liken it to seasons. So it's like a springtime where you are full of energy. You are driven by passion. There's explosive growth. Some would say unbridled growth, where you will just pour your energy into it. It grows. You see growth externally and also internally. So it just seems effortless. So when you look at the start of anything, and to some extent, there has to be that level of effortness to effort. Otherwise, it dissipates very quickly. And that all comes down to alignment as well. So are you aligned with what you're doing? Because a lot of the time, somebody else's great idea is not your great idea.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But that can work in some states. But if you yourself are not aligned, we would talk about alignment.
Of course.
With personal and business. And I think that's the evolutionary understanding. The closer we align our businesses, our purpose in how we accumulate wealth with what matters inside, it becomes effortless. But when you're in that euphoric state of just unbridled growth, the relationships you build at that point in time just fuel you as well. So if we look at the start of any of my businesses, there was that initial period of just growth. There was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of energy. But your energy would just get poured into it, and you just explode. And it was great fun. And it tracks the way that we learn the business cycle grows. You just have this immense growth, and it just feels like it's going to last forever. So that's definitely
that's good. That's good to hear. Some of our clients come through at the very startup phase. They're very unclear about their vision. They're some of them have hard time to project 12 months even into the future, especially because they're expert-led businesses. And I think where you're coming from is that service provider business, which is the franchise business, right? Where you're kind of selling what people already want. Whereas our expert-led businesses have what they're doing is they are the product, right? They are sort of like going out there and putting themselves out there in the market. And
I think to some extent you're always the product, even if you're selling a commodity,
right?
Because sales is a relationship. So if we take example for bubble tea is bubble tea. You get the tea, you get the syrup, you get sugar, you get toppings, you shake it, you throw it into a cup. All very much of a muchness. What is it that changes the dynamic? And what is it makes you grow? And it's that level of alignment. And startups, I feel that if you don't spend enough time sitting down and understanding your why, what drives you to get to work through, because don't kid yourself, when you're a seed in the ground, it takes a lot of effort to move the soil out of the way before you can even blossom. And the biggest tree start as acorn jammed down in the dirt a long way, and it takes a long time to push through before you see any fruit. And I think that's a lot of the battle that startups face as well. They don't realize that it's a game of consistency, developing a cadence, developing a system, structures, and then arming yourself with the right people around you, and then having that feedback loop. Because if you're not getting results, you need to be able to identify, where is it? Is it my energy? Is it my ecosystem? Is it I've got a misalignment in my structure? Am I not watching the numbers? And I think
that's great.
There's a level of understanding that you are an elite athlete. An entrepreneur is one of the most elite athletes. And I think that's where understanding things like personal fitness is so important. Understanding that the alignment with all the spheres in your life. So making sure you're investing in your internal fitness, your mental fitness, your external fitness, the fitness in your environment is so important. And that's what makes it challenging. But through great challenge comes great joy.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so I just want to talk to the listeners for a bit about this. Much of the industry that I've been in the past 17 years is, full of experts that probably left another life of like maybe corporate, and they've come into a space of sharing their passion for health or spirituality or some sort of coaching, or even selling a product that has worked for them, and then now they've become missionaries of selling that. Though what comes in the way, as you said so beautifully, is that personal struggles, like the beliefs, the confidence, and then not really seeing the results straight away, which is opposite to what you experienced maybe in your second business, right? But a lot of us, or a lot of my students and clients, they face that in their first year or so, especially even up to 3 years, where they are just like, no, I think I'll keep my job, and then I'll also do this on the side and just see what works, because it's just feels so unsafe. And I just want to normalize that is okay to go through as well, like Avi said, because at the beginning, it's like you're a seed. You are right down in the ground. You need time to sprout and grow. And whatever time and effort you can give, you've just got to be consistently giving that time for your seed to sprout. Have I heard you right?
Yeah, correct. So you need to provide it with sustenance as well. So you got to keep watering it, even if you don't see a result. You've got to give it the fertilizer.
Don't forget it.
So, and I think holding on to that belief is really critical in the beginning, to know that, and if you don't have a solid why, if you don't know why you're doing this, and a why doesn't have to be extraordinarily profound, it has to just have meaning for you.
I get that. Yeah.
Just maintaining a level of happiness, or maintaining a level of abundance, or changing the world. But to some extent, there has to be an element of fear attached to your why, to almost make it like, oh my God, I can't, am I going to achieve this? And that little friction between fear and excitement can sometimes be a great catalyst for if you're not getting growth, it's inevitable. Words are so powerful. So if we look at things like that for young startups, it's really important that you look to the leaders who are in the field that you want to be in, learn from people who've been there before, but really understand their language. What is it that makes them understand, and what is it drives them? A level of inevitability. A lot of the time you look at the really peaky leaders, the really successful, and it's almost like they had this level of tunnel vision. They just knew where they needed to go, and they just strove towards it. They didn't worry about all the noise. One of my mentors was my father, and he always used to have a saying. He said, just put your blinkers on and run your own race. Then you don't get caught up in a lot of the conversation.
Yes.
Let's be honest, though. We're going to get caught up in the conversation. So just remember every now and again to put it back on, and then just you know.
I love that. I love that analogy and metaphor. Yeah. And look, when it comes to being in the startup phase, these are common problems, like the missing focus and coming back in and out, these are common problems. But as you said, that intensity needs to be there. And I like to also think that, looking back at my journey, the first 5 years for me was hustle, 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 hustle. But that intensity, like you said, that friction has to be there for the seed to sprout. Like you like if you're trying to grow a plant, if you're using that metaphor, it's the sunlight. Your hustle gives it the sunlight to sprout open. Great analogy. And it can look differently for different people. Different businesses have different ways of achieving that growth through the first few years of struggle, right? Because not everybody's goals and vision is the same. And like you said, the purpose, the why, is also not the same, though that intensity is required. That passion has to be there. That fire has to be there in the first few years.
And it doesn't have to be outward. Like, how some people have a association with the word of intensity is like somebody's outwardly intense. I don't remember. It doesn't have to be like that. It can just be a quiet confidence that sits inside of you. It can be a consistency in the way you work. It can be the verbosity, the outwardness. Like me, everyone who knows me knows that I'm very loud. I'm very energetic. I'm a lot better in person than I'm on a screen and things like that. But that's just me. But for some people, there's a quiet confidence. There's an internal knowing. And it's just finding what works for you.
Yeah, great. Wait, well said. In when it comes to your journey, what comes to mind as far as challenges went in the startup with the second business, like the franchise business? What are some of the challenges you face, whether it be personal or customer or business? What are some of the things that you faced?
Look, the reality is there's not enough hours in the day to go through the challenges, because I think that a lot of people don't see that success is born out of a sea of challenge. It's almost like if I were to take a droplet of water from here and go, this is my success, this is the struggle that it came out of. So probably one of the biggest struggles was your mindset. So I was heavily bullied my whole life. And that bullying continued into my work life. And then it broke me to a point of breaking. So I was talking to a psychologist at the time, and I have a great way of building rapport with people. And so she got real with me at one point in time. She goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to run my own business. She goes, well, what business? I said, any business. She goes, well, just go do it. And the initial struggle was convincing myself that I can do it. But the reality is you can do anything you set your mind to. And sometimes it can be an external drive that gets you going. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people
course.
It wasn't in my head and blah, blah. No. There's no secret formula. Drive is drive. It's whatever made you attain the goal. And for young entrepreneurs, understanding that success needs to be celebrated at every step of the way. Now, this is something I didn't do. I didn't celebrate successes. So now I look back and kind of go, wow, if I look at my gym, I opened with a fair few members. I was pretty much close to my break even. I started with $0 in the bank account. I took out high interest loans, borrowed, begged, and didn't steal. But, we'll just throw it in there for dramatic effect. So how you get there also makes up your storyline, but appreciating it is a really important aspect. And that's something I still struggle with now. Recognizing things. You can use it for egoistic purposes, but you don't necessarily always use it for the right purpose, because there's always an inner story that's running. So for young entrepreneurs, it's really important to celebrate your wins weekly. Find something you're grateful for every day, but really externally celebrate. So find a community that helps you develop that. Find a running mate, find anything, because the other thing you fight as a startup is loneliness. You're the only person who's been through this. No
Did
one
you
else
say
has played.
loneliness? Did you say loneliness? Is that what you said? Okay, yeah. What was going on for you then with the loneliness? Like, what did you feel? How did that happen?
When your energy levels are so low, you start to lose perspective. When you are pummeling so hard to
Yeah.
achieve a goal, it's very, very easy to lose perspective.
Okay.
And when perspective is lost, even when people point it out to you, you become, selectively deaf.
Okay. Yeah.
So you tend to ignore the voice of reason,
Yeah.
and you tend to only listen to things which support your masochistic point of view.
But I have to share something personal about that because I think I also experienced loneliness in another way, right? I found that, again, where I feel there are similarities and differences in just the context, but it's similar, right? Like when you go off on your journey, when you become tunnel focused on your one passion, purpose, vision to become a reality, it's inevitable that so many of your friends are just not going to be visible in that journey, because they're doing their own thing as well. There came a point where my lifestyle was so different to my friends and families, and I just found myself to be always missing out on things and always feeling like there's nobody around me. And again, like you said, the perspective and your own dialogue, inner chatter, really can also work against you, because then you're thinking all these other things because you're under such pressure, you're under such stress, and it's all brand new for you, right? So that's also worthwhile noticing that for me, it was a brand new venture and brand new path, and nobody else had done it around me. So to acknowledge yourself for that, I acknowledge you for going through that and coming through to the other end to tell the story. Say, you live to tell the story. But those are three great struggles that you mentioned, because I can totally agree with that myself as well, even though we were in different industries. It's a very good, indicator to. I would also look at this as a reframe for me. How do you think you would look at it now? Do you think that was an essential part of your journey to realize your greatness as well? Those three challenges?
I think that I succeeded irrespective.
Sorry?
I succeeded irrespective
Right,
of
right.
reflecting back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that you rob yourself of the experience.
Okay.
You don't embed the feeling of success.
Mm.
Therefore, at some point in time, you start asking questions: why am I even doing this? Is
Okay.
it worth the struggle? Because if you can't identify what the benefit is,
Yes.
and that can be money is the net effect of these. It shouldn't be the driving goal. And if it becomes a driving goal, once you achieve it, and we know a lot of wealthy people like this, they become hollow. It's like, I've got all this money, more than I could spend, but it has no substance, it has no meaning. So I think it's really important that we look at all aspects of your life when you are succeeding as a relationship success.
Yeah.
Friends naturally do. Friends will fall off, and that's okay, because a lot of the time it's a symbiotic relationship. You will lose that symbiosis and they will go on their own journey, and they will find somebody else who will help them go on their path. And it's not like you have to hold hands and sing kumbaya with everyone. And I think that's a challenge for somebody like me who is a people pleaser. So
So then when you look back at that time where you experienced the loneliness, you were not celebrating yourself, and then you were also like, fine. What was the first one you mentioned, that you were sort of always working and
head down, bum up.
Yeah.
Not really. It was that level of tunnel visionness.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, that tunnel vision was all about servicing the customer,
Right.
which is such a vital feature of the success of any business.
And it's a learning curve as well, don't forget, right? It's like we go from one lifestyle to the next, which is, serving customers is such a big part of service industry. Right. And that takes a lot out of a human being, especially someone like you who has a family, and, all of us have families or other things to do. But when we look at that time of your life, you have succeeded. You said irrespective, but I I think, like, if I can offer something to that, those challenges that you can look back at now, has that become a different thing now? Like, now that you know better, have those habits changed?
I think that they definitely have.
Mm,
I think, though, if I could have my time again, I would take pauses a
right.
lot more
Yes.
regularly to actually process those changes or
Yeah.
process those learnings. I think that I've gone through 30 years of hard knocks, and I wear that as a badge of honor, which I think is so. You can definitely do that. Nothing wrong with it. Is it
So,
the smartest, though? I don't think it was
okay.
the smartest.
So let's talk about what it actually caused you. I mean, if you didn't do those three things, but you got your results regardless, right? What are some of the things you think you missed out because of those three habits that you didn't have?
I thought hard work would replace everything. So if we look at
Oh,
franchising, which is an interesting world, it's a very interesting world, and it's a very polarizing world. I have my thoughts and opinions about franchising, which I'll keep to myself, but I feel as though if we understand the levers of business and how business works, how if you can control your recommended retail price, control your cost of goods, leasing, labor, and marketing, you control all the levers within your world that you can drive success.
mm-hmm.
In franchising, it's designed for bulk of the time, the generalization is designed for people who don't have the acumen for business, are learning, want to buy systems, want to buy all these kinds of things. Interestingly enough, in a lot of the times, and in my experience, you give up control of those elements. So you are applying your wares, pouring your heart and soul into this, and you've lost the mechanism of control without understanding it. You never had it. The dream is sold to you majority of the time that you have this control, be your own boss. Well, let's look at that. Are you? You're the boss because you're paying out all the money. If that makes you the boss, then yes, you're the boss. You're paying out the rent. You're coping with the margins. You don't have control over setting anything. Now, I think that franchising definitely has a space. It's a great space to learn your trade, learn everything, and maybe evolve beyond. Or is it just a tool in your is it a tool? Is buying a franchise just a mechanism by which to drive a return on investment? So it's really understanding yourself, your why, and then moving forward, but then pausing. Oh, it's so important to stop and reflect. Daily would be the gold standard, but I'm a realist. So schedule it in monthly, quarterly, and at worst yearly. Just stop, pause, and have a look. And that is interesting. Like the cornerstone to my coaching now and my business strategy, and I also do property strategy, is all about that pause once a year and go, what is the strategic goal? What's the long-term goal? What's the medium term, and what's the immediate goal? And is there a level of synergy? Do they sit within your ecosystem? And I think that pause is so important. Without going into the science of it, it does take us out of that parasympathetic nervous system. If it trains our mind to really lean back and focus a little bit more on what drives us.
No, that's good. That's good. For those of you that are listening in, all of this that Avi is sharing, if you're in the startup phase and you're wondering, what are some of the habits, personal habits that you have to have? So if you can take away anything, I want you to hear the habits that you need to develop, right? You have to have the ability to pause to actually take stock. Are you heading in the right direction, or are you kind of off? Because the control that you can create in your startup business, if you're not in a franchise, then what you're doing is you're actually aligning yourself consistently. You're aligning yourself back to What do you have to do to be able to serve your clients, to be able to do your marketing, to be able to do all the things that you need to do to build those business systems. Therefore, then you can expect that result that you're trying to create, right? So money is not the thing that you're aiming to do or get. It's the things that you need to do to get people to pay you, to work with you. And that's the startup habits. Those are the startup things you have to be focused on. But what Avi was saying essentially is that when you are buying into a franchise, you're not really thinking like that. You're not really having to think like that because all the systems are provided to you. You're not really thinking about it from a 10,000-foot view. You're just the cog in the machine doing the thing that they told you to do. That's why the focus can be lost because you're just doing it like you would go to work. But these are the habits that you build when you build your own business from the ground up, where you're really focused on just following the strategy, just following the things, but also checking in with yourself, pausing, and perhaps surround yourself with some community or a coach or a mentor or someone, a business bestie, like he said, running buddy, who can also talk to you through, hey, what did you get up to this week? What are you working for this week? Or what are you playing for this week? And, how are you going with that? And that way you're really in touch with, what are you doing? Because if you're not conscious of that, like with Avi's story, it's so easy to isolate yourself and so easy to get bogged down with all the thoughts that come from just being tired all the time and working all the time. And that's not what entrepreneurship is about. It's about conscious actions, deliberate actions that are strategic. And you can definitely do that through, some sort of a structure that you can take from others that have already done that before you. But also with the guidance, like you beautifully said, Avi. If you're someone that's looking to install a proven marketing strategy in your one-person business, then look no further and check out the 90-day new clients bootcamp we've got for you. This is a program designed for someone that is too busy and cannot fit in their marketing work, sales work into their business practices currently. All you need is an hour a week to be able to keep moving yourself forward so that you can enroll 10 new clients without the overwhelm of creating a brand new launch system each and every time you try to launch your programs or services. This program has been tested by me and many others, and I would love to present what has worked for me over the last 17 years. And I'll tell you what, my solopreneur business have always thrived because I've used this system. It took me a ton of time, a lot of money, research to have come up with this 6-step strategy. For those of you that are like me, and I was scared of marketing and sales as well, but it has to be done. It's something that every business needs to grow with structure in place. And I'd love for you to check it out. So check out the offer, and if you have a question and you want to have a chat with us, do get in touch because the early bird offer won't last long. It's like you beautifully said, Avi, that you got to also be humble enough to think that this is not, you're not the first person to have these problems. Everybody goes through these problems when they're in startup phase, and the quicker you get someone to show you what you're doing, the quicker you're going to find your feet, and then you're going to go, okay, well, this is the work that I'm meant to be doing, and the rest of it is personal development, isn't it? That you are, you're stepping into the role of a startup owner. Like you're not just a worker.
Yeah. And
anything else you want to add to that?
As a startup, you need to understand you can't skip steps. You can't become the entrepreneur. You are being entrepreneurial. You are not an entrepreneur by the definition of the word. The entrepreneur has been through each individual step. From the first year I owned my gym, everyone thought I was the cleaner. No idea that I was the gym owner.
Yeah.
In my bubble tea business, I was the technician. I, unclog the drains. I service my equipment. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to do that. That's not what I'm saying. There has to be a level of, kids running around me, tacit awareness of what needs to happen. And I think that if you become tunnel visioned a little bit too much on becoming just a technician, you will not sit back and understand that there's a sequential process. And that's the system you're talking about. But the system, all systems are great. It's the user that needs to understand how to, one, apply it, be adequately equipped to apply. And then that's where we talk about things like, you know, you can definitely succeed on your own. I'm not saying you need a coach. But I think that if we understand that we're professional athletes, entrepreneurs are professional athletes, we are always working. For those poor people who are still doing 80, 90 hours a week, I sympathize. But it's not something you can maintain. You need support. You need help. Franchising does provide you with that support. Support, help. Now, very rarely will you get the entrepreneurial growth mindset. How do you take one franchise, understand its limitations, understand it may not tickle your entrepreneurial gene, but that's okay. You can take what it has, supplant it somewhere else, and allow that to flourish without causing yourself. Because for me, I sat in ego for a long time. You know, oh, how could they do this to me? Blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of go, hang on, is that fruitful for me? Does that help me achieve the long-term vision? This is where the beautiful thing of setting a vision and intention is so important. Like before we started, you set the intention. That's something you're very good at, setting the intention. What is the goal? What is the vision? What are we trying to achieve here? And that really helps. And I think for a young startup to really have that, make that part of everything you do, it makes things simpler. I won't say easy, but it definitely will make things simpler because you'll have a clarity of vision.
Yes.
And you won't get caught up in a lot of it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for delving into that. It's a good segue to talk about your shifts that has taken place, you know, since you started. Let's talk about what are some of the results you've been able to create? I know you love talking about this, and I like hearing it from you because, you know, your efforts didn't just get wasted. I mean, everybody has their own inner demons to go look into on this path of entrepreneurship, business ownership. So for our listeners, once again, I'll say it, you know, business ownership is a journey, like a spiritual journey. Honestly, it's the spiritual development, personal development, all put into one, where you will face your own shadows. And so Avi has been kind enough to come on the show today and open himself up so beautifully. So if some of you are thinking of, well, man, this guy sounds like he's just overworked and all that. But many of us, if you want to be successful, these are the shadows that you will see come up as well. Every successful entrepreneur will go through the same journey of doing exactly what Avi has done. And then they come to the other side, which is what we're going to talk about next, which is, you know, where did that get him? You know, where did that get him with his businesses? So, Avi, do you want to just share with us, well, you had your dark side working against you, but then on the other side, you did pull yourself through to the, you know, to your targets. What are some of the results you were able to create in your businesses? If you can just share with the listeners for a bit.
Yeah, sure. So I suppose my first business was developed out of a necessity. So it was a necessity for money. But it managed to actually pay my way through a lot of things that in youth we don't get a chance to do. So I got to see a lot of abundance from a very young age. I was very fortunate. Didn't have a level of gratitude for it, so the world managed to let that disappear. But it's interesting. You tend to focus on that 5% of loss, but forgetting the 95% of abundance.
I like that. Wait, let's just celebrate that shift, Avi. Let's just celebrate that you just did that. You just acknowledged your 95% and 5%. I mean, you just got to give yourself a moment. I mean, claps to you.
Well, I'm rolling with the adversity of my tripod giving up, so I'll clap one-handed.
Right. Okay. So, okay.
That's part of the entrepreneurial journey. It's like simple things like
Doing
this,
it
like
messy.
not getting flustered by when things don't work, and understanding that success is And
I
that's the
see.
thing. Remember how I said I didn't celebrate successes at the time?
Yes, that's what I'm
So
acknowledging in you. Yes, this is a great, and at the age of 14, when you started a so-called business, I'm sure you didn't think business. You were just doing what you felt was necessary for you to have access to funds to be able to fund your life and your fun.
driven by family as well. It was like family was going through a tough financial period. Very successful businesses
Mhm.
previously, and unbeknownst to me, there was a lot of you know thievery going on, and people just taking what didn't belong to them. Abuse of power, abuse of position,
Yeah.
but without thinking about the net result from that. And the net result was like, a family misses out, so, and as a child, you don't think about those things. You're just thinking about the linear aspect of it, of like, oh, okay, we've got no money. What do I do? Oh, well, there's this thing here. I'm going to go do it.
Okay. So
And
what
you
did
just
you get
did.
with your money that you made in your business? What did you do?
I
This
actually
is
paid the
how-
mortgage. So,
Wow.
so what we would do is paid the mortgage, food, education. And then once that was all taken care of and back on your plate, on all taken care of, you spend it on what do teenagers spend their money on? Well, for me,
Mm.
it was stupidly fast cars, street racing. We're living a nefarious lifestyle, jet setting around the world. It was doing
Yeah.
all those things that if we had Instagram now, I'd probably be very wealthy because
Right.
you could just. A lot of people trying to understand what it is. Like, go look at Fast and the Furious.
So thank you for sharing that. Look, we're being candid, but this is the thing, you might be going through some dark phases in life, though your efforts are not a waste. You might think like, oh, there's a lot of talk about, hard work is not necessary, but you do need to put in the hard work. But with alignment, you can do it a lot faster and more gracefully and probably more consciously so that, you don't have to struggle as much, which is the beauty of hindsight now for you. So what are some of the results you were able to create in the franchise business?
So with our last franchises, we ended up being number one in the industry, which was
Mm,
great. I think we took a lot of the lessons of the past and just applied. I think also timing was there, knowing when an industry is about to explode and understanding the positioning is really important. Supplanting a culture of excellence is essential. Um, and then knowing how all of that has to function to actually achieve the goal of superior customer service. Because remember, I was saying in the beginning, it's all about anyone can make this, like anyone can make something. It's understanding how you position it where it actually fits an external and internal need.
yeah.
So a lot of the time I would teach my team, my talent, don't ask a customer what they want. They're already there at a shop that sells a commodity or a product. Ask
Yeah.
them how they feel today.
Mm,
Be genuine.
yeah.
And if they, don't give a stereotypical answer. I'm great today, but are you really? What does that mean for you? And a lot of the time people will be like, oh, I'm not feeling amazing. I'll be like, well, great. You will in about 4 minutes when I give you this drink. Because I've yet to see somebody drink a bubble tea and not be happy.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think it was understanding what mechanism or what role you play in the journey of your customer is really important. And that is a big key to success. It's finding out that gap in what they need, or maybe not even seeing, they may not even see what they need. And if you fill that gap in customer service and they're not even aware that they have the gap, that's the chrysalis of massive success.
Yeah.
Because it fills you up inside, but it fills your wallet as well.
It works because you put yourself, like you put that heart into it and you actually systemize it for your team to be able to achieve that. So, and number one in the country is a big thing. And even though you were slogging away, you felt like, you were just never ending work, though.
1 year, this is another one. 1 year we won the Franchise Council of Australia Awards for the state, number one franchise across the board. And we only came runner up nationally
Wow.
to Quest, I think it was, which is a large entity. It was owned by multiple owners. And then there was a mum and dad investor who bought a bubble tea franchise, ran it off the couch with a team of 40 whilst managing, children, one disabled child with high needs, I had to deal with a whole bunch of things at the same time, and it never really dawns on you because you just focus on the height of success. But then I remember and this is quite self-deprecating actually, I don't know where the certificate is.
Oh.
Right. So I didn't celebrate that. And this is a big one for me that I really focus on my clients, but it still is a blind spot. And I think it's really important to understand that your coach doesn't have to be perfect. Your coach has to see perfection within you. And if they don't, go somewhere else. And I think that's really important. And the coach in themselves isn't perfect. See, one of my coaches was amazing, but he wasn't perfect. And I think that gives that level of understanding that, you know what, perfection isn't the goal. It's the journey. And that's the goal. And that's where you meet the right people, you learn the right things, and you feel your mind, body, and spirit at the same time. So it is good fun.
Yeah, it's good. Well said. Well, here, as you know, we say it's about progress, not perfection, isn't it? So, yeah, progress is the name of the game. And I just love the analogy of the seed growing into the plant or tree it's meant to be. And we are also the gardeners, so the gardening has to be done, whether you do it or you train someone else to do it.
Liken to growing fruit and vegetables, so this feeds our belly as well.
Exactly. That's it. That's the plan, right? Let's talk about the coaching that you did do with us, right? And when you came along and we started our coaching journey with you, you were transitioning, or you were already in a couple of businesses already, right? And also you started Prime Your Mind. So, yes. And Avi's got some of the skills, so many skills from his last businesses. So for him, if I can speak to you directly, I'll speak to you directly about this, but it was really easy as a coach to, help you because you were just so convinced already that this is necessary along the journey of being your most effective self by having a coach there. Because like you constantly say, entrepreneurs are like athletes. You need to act like an athlete instead of, just a bypasser. And I also like that because I think a lot of people think that the coach's job is to get you connected to wanting the business, but it's not. The coach's job is to support you to actualize your dreams and your goals, right? So, yeah, it was so super easy to coach you because it's just, you just have that conviction in you that that's what I want and that's what I'm doing, Supriya, and now let's do it together, right? And so let's talk about that. How did you come to the realization that a coach was essential on your journey whenever you started, before me even?
Yeah, so I think that I'd always been aware of coaches. I think that when I was younger, I would watch a lot of Tony Robbins, a lot of Robert Kiyosaki. I'd read Mike Lee Gerber, Napoleon Hill. And I was an academic when I was younger, so I'd always be seeking out knowledge. And an author is a coach because they are imparting knowledge. They are figuring out ways or providing you with options of growth. How do I achieve? Why do I achieve? When do I achieve? And so I think I've always been involved in that. I was fortunate enough to work directly with Kerwin Ray before his untimely passing, and Remy Pearson, who's a friend of his as well, and multiple other coaches I've had a chance to interact with. And it is about seeking out excellence in areas that you want to work in. So I think that we developed a synergy because we have a shared experience, a shared heritage, but it was also a shared outlook. And that's what makes it easy. That's what a lot of it is. It's about finding that real synergy with who you work with. And that's a coach as well. And I think that's what really drove us, allowed me to succeed, because you helped me build my own brand. There was Prime Your Mind, which was there, but I wasn't ready at that point in time. There was a lot of things I needed to get out of the system. And so I built my own bubble tea brand, My Chai. But I fell into the role of the technician. You know, when your followers and readers and listeners will read the book, The E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber, they will learn the different phases. And it's a really good book to read and understand that a lot of the time you'll fall back, and I fell back into the technician role, you know, just the hard work, because that's all I've known to some extent. When you're run down, you kind of fall back into these kind of patterns, and recognizing that pattern was really important.
Yeah.
But having said that, with your guidance, I managed to build, launch, and start selling my own brand in 6 weeks, whilst dealing with personal issues, like, you know.
Oh, there was so many things happening, right?
I lost an auntie, I lost Kerwin. Irrespective of that, still succeeded. So that was good. It was good.
Like I said, you were easy to coach because you already had an understanding of how to use a coach, you know. So coaching is like, you know, something that you would know now because you're a coach yourself. And I love that you are doing that, because you've got such a vast amount of experience in business, you know, just talking about business from the journey you've made from zero to, you know, your hero's journey. It's a lot of experience that you get to share with your clients. Let's talk about what you do for your people now as a franchise coach. Is that what you're specializing in now?
I definitely help franchises, especially franchisees who have gotten to that point where they've learnt the systems, and now they want to tickle that entrepreneurial aspect of their life, where they need a lot more strategic planning, a lot more understanding that recognition of the levers of business, but then understanding how the drive comes from inside. So I'm very much a holistic coach in that regard, but I do like falling back on systems and structures and strategic planning, because I've learned all of those, and then learning how to diffuse that knowledge amongst your team. So a lot of the time I work with franchisees who are looking to move to multi-unit franchising. So go from one to multiple, because that's a whole different paradigm. It's not just a modular thing where you say, I'll add another one, I'll add another one, I'll add another one. There's so many efficiency gains you can have, but also learning the artistry of, should I be taking my money and investing it elsewhere?
Yeah.
You know, what else can I be doing? Should I be going inwards? And it's just providing the right ecosystem for people like that to succeed. What's very interesting, though, is when you evolve to that level of aptitude and awareness in business, I'm noticing that my client pool is changing a little bit. I'm moving towards people who are generally looking to scale their business. That they're looking to grow beyond a single unit of anything.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. I'm not necessarily in the startup phase, but nowadays it's really interesting. Startup phases are quite different from when we started our business. You can get a lot of venture capital nowadays. You can really start on a solid foundation. And that's where I think coaching, mentorship, and systems and structures are so essential. Because if you've been blessed enough to get venture capital, seed capital, you can make a huge impact very quickly. And that's exciting. And that excitement drives a lot of innovation now as well. We're at the precipice of a huge 5 to 10 year period. We've got about 20 Gutenberg moments happening at the one time. And I think that this is the time for the young entrepreneur who can figure out how to get access to capital. Capital is the fuel that drives a business. It's not everything, but it's pretty important. It's a great time to find people like myself, yourself, people who have either done look, I would definitely recommend people who've done what you want to do. If you want to succeed in franchising, somebody who's done franchising. You want to succeed in customer service, find somebody who's succeeded in customer service. You will notice there's a lot of similarities between successful coaches. That's okay. Try it all. It's like speed dating. You know, you can't. And even like yourself and myself, I recently got off a call with another coach who I'm looking to work with, because it's all about adding skills to your repertoire. You know, like a tennis coach. The tennis coach, they have a mindset coach, a coach for their backhand, a coach for their forehand, serving coach. It is that. It's really cool. You catalyze your growth so much. So that's what I do. I find if there's a synergy with my client, because it's a symbiotic relationship. So I sit down with each one, figure out where they are at, meet them where they're at, and see if it's a genuine ability to help.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Where can people reach you and connect with you? Is it best On email or
Find me on
website?
Facebook or Instagram. Just look up Prime Your Mind,
Yes.
and you can shoot me a message.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more about authentic connection. So it's not, I'm not seeking an overabundance of people to talk to. I want to find the right people. And then you notice that with that the relationship grows. It's all about the relationship for me. It's about finding that match of values, so if anyone resonates with me, you will resonate with me immediately. You know, when you just meet somebody, you kind of go, oh, yeah, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about, or I can work with this one. I recently met like one of my current clients who's new. He goes, the second I saw you, I thought this guy I can work with. Everybody goes, I can work with you. So it's that. So if people resonate with anything I've said, look me up, give me a message, and unfortunately, you'll actually get me. You won't get a bot. You won't get an assistant. You'll just get me. And I'm not saying, mind you, when you scale, I'll teach you how to use bots. Teach you how to use assistants. I'll teach you how to be authentic with everything that you do. So it's good fun.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, guys, I hope you got a lot of value out of this one, because just in case, this was just the first time you were exposed to so much experience, so much wisdom, so many lessons. Let me help you recap this episode with some of the things we spoke of. So, what are some of the struggles you can expect to face in the startup phase of your business? Know that there are phases to growing a business. Can look very different for different people. And then we spoke about scaling. What can that look like for different kinds of businesses in different ways? And we talked about franchise, the franchise model. And Avi, I know Avi personally because of the coach-coachee relationship, but also we've got a friendship. So he actually chose to help franchisors or franchisees because of his long time experience, but also he believes in ethical franchising, which has got a lot to do with learning the lessons that he had already learned and saving those mistakes for other people that are going to join franchises. So if you want to work with him with regards to scaling, he's going to be the perfect coach for you, because he understands the big picture, but he's also done the groundwork, which is, made all the mistakes, made all the, discoveries that come up with just going in blind. But if you are someone that's experienced in business and you want to scale, I think Avi's going to be a good coach for you as well. So I'll put his links and everything in the show notes for you to contact him. Yeah, so this whole episode was to help you see what are some of the challenges and triumphs and the goals that you should be looking to set or expect on your journey of running a service-based business, because it's not going to look as pretty as you see on Instagram. It's not going to be as glorious as someone makes it look like, because if they are looking glorious and shiny, just know that they've done their hard yards to have reached a point of calm to then show you the way forward. But if you want to be in that position one day, you need to also do your, pay your dues, as they say. And it doesn't have to be messy as we've done it, but there's always a way to find a cleaner, more structured, and more faster way. As Avi shared, he was able to actually utilize the coach to be able to get results in 6 weeks, in as short a time as 6 weeks, which is quick because he believes in the system. He has that value system. So if I've never worked with a coach, it may not be the results. We're not promising 6 weeks. I never promise a 6-week result turnaround, but it's a relationship that you build. Like Avi said, if you resonate with someone's vibe, if you resonate with what they're showing you, approach them, see how it goes, and the rest can be figured out on the way, isn't it, Avi? Yeah.
Conversation's always free.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you so much for coming over here on this corner, Avi. Really appreciate your time and energy and passion and wisdom. And really lovely to have you here.
Likewise. And thank you so much for the opportunity. That's been amazing. And I wish you all the best. And I know you'll have an amazing journey as well as you grow and succeed in your chosen field and your chosen space. Which is there's a level of inevitability about it. You know, when you know something, you know, I think that there's a lot of benefit in positivity. And thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been cool.
You are so welcome. All right, guys, checking out now, and I'll see you at the next episode. And please do drop in some comments, give it a like, help us share this message in the wide world of the internet and everybody else that could be wondering about this topic. And really appreciate you guys tuning in today. See you at the next one.
Bye, everyone.